Well, good evening and welcome to yet another Tuesday's Blues Day night at Henry's Blues House. Blues Talking is our habitual delve into the background of notorious musicians. None of them become much more notorious than tonight's guest.
Oh my God.
Singer, harmonica player, band leader, man about the blues, a great authority on the music, and an all-round good chap. Say good evening to Trix, Ricky Cool. Now the formula is pretty simple. I just want to know where you first heard this wonderful music and what was it that attracted you, and I'll shut up now for 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, the seed was planted when I was very young, and that was really rock and roll. But when I one of my big memories is as a 6-year-old boy at the Cairo Hotel in Weston-super-Mare on holiday with my parents and my brother, hearing Heartbreak Hotel for the first time on a jukebox that they had at the hotel. And by whatever means I got hold of sixpence to play the jukebox. I don't know how I managed it, but I played Heartbreak Hotel over and over and over and over again. And it was just the sound of the record, Elvis's voice, just the sort of sparse, sort of very moody sort of backing, and the way that other instruments came in. The piano came in, would have been Floyd Kramer, I guess, coming in a bit later on. So that was really my first big memory, and that really triggered me into saving my pocket money to buy records, and I bought 78s. I remember buying Jenny Jenny Jenny, Little Richard's Jenny Jenny Jenny. I can remember buying lots of others. I bought Skiffle as well. I had a lot of Lonnie Donegan records, which I've still got. I've got all of these records, and then of course what happened is, as you will probably know, is towards the latter part of the 1950s and into the early part of the 1960s, that's when rock and roll got tamed by the record companies and people like Del Shannon and Bobby Rydell and all of those sort of very nice, safe people, became pop stars, and I lost interest in it completely. Apart from one or two little records, I do remember Chris Monte's Let's Dance as being one. I thought, oh God, that's a great, the sound of the organ on that was one that I really liked. And then of course in this country, Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, Shaking All Over. I mean, so in amongst that period there were great tracks. But then it was really when I was 13, that's when I first heard the Beatles, and I joined the fan club. I had to wait 3 months to get a reply from the Beatles fan club. Shortly after that, I joined the Rolling Stones fan club. It took 2 weeks to get a reply from the Rolling. 3 months for the Beatles, 2 weeks for the Stones. But it was really the Stones that were the turning point. That's what really got me interested, because I was just fascinated by the names that it would credit on the record labels as being the songwriters of the songs they were doing. This is, of course, when they were just covering American blues records. So that's when I heard names like McDaniels, who I later found out was Bo Diddley, and Morganfield, Muddy Waters, and Burnett, Chester Burnett, Howlin' Wolf. So when I found out what their actual stage names were, that again, that was exciting as well, because I didn't know that people had names like that, and the names were so, they were kind of like from outer space, somebody called Howlin' Wolf, wow, and then of course then because I started investigating it more. By the way, I was born and brought up in Halesowen, and there was no record shop as such in Halesowen. The shop that sold records was an electrical shop called Priest's, and when I found out about these records, occasionally they would have some of these records in the shop on Pie International, on the Pie International label. That's certainly where I got hold of some Howlin' Wolf records, and also some Sonny Boy Williamson. But I was kind of hooked, really. I found out about Blues Unlimited magazine, and I started getting that. And then through reading Blues Unlimited magazine, I found out about the Littman Row Blues festivals. I went to my first Littman Row Blues Festival. For those of you that aren't aware of those, they started in the, was it 62, probably the first one?
In Frankfurt.
Yeah, and then they brought over the best of the blues artists at that time, and of course these were the top people.
At the peak of their ability.
Yes, absolutely. The first one I went to was 1965, so I was 15. 1965, I caught the bus from Hayley Green, just outside Halzone, where my parents lived, to Birmingham, to the town hall, and sat there mesmerised by Buddy Guy. He was the electric. I can't remember all of the house band, but one of the things that was so good about the blues festivals was that they would introduce the house band first of all, one by one. So it would usually be the piano player who'd come on, and I think the first piano player I saw was Memphis Slim. It might have, I might be wrong with that, but I don't.
Otis Spann, maybe?
No, I don't think so. I definitely saw Memphis Slim very early on, and Willie Dixon. But
was Cousin Joe on that show?
No. Oh.
Rosetta Thorpe?
No, Rosetta Thorpe. No, but it was Big Mama Thornton on that one. Big Mama Thornton. Yeah. I'll tell you about her in a sec. But yeah, so the piano player would walk on and would just start tinkling away on the piano. But yeah, it'd be fantastic, you know. You just and the thing about the atmosphere with the audience was reverence. You didn't actually, you know, absolute silence. You were just in awe of these people. So that, and then there'd be the microphone for the piano player, and he'd introduce the double bass player, which could have been, certainly was in one of the early ones, Willie Dixon. Right. He'd come on and he'd just join in, and then they'd bring on the drummer. I think the first drummer I might have seen was Freddie Below. Yeah. You know, the great, one of the greatest of all the Chicago drummers. He'd just drop in, and then they'd bring their guitarist, which on that first one was Buddy Guy, and they'd build him as the only guy who could play the guitar one-handed, because his kind of party trick was just sort of doing this, you know. I saw T-Bone Walker a couple of years later at another festival. Of course, he was doing it all over the place, and had been doing it for a long time before Buddy Guy. But Buddy Guy was like, he would have been quite young, and he was in his immaculate suit, and he got this quiffed back hair, you know, sort of, they call it a pompadour, don't they? That's a really slick back, and he was playing the, well, he would have done things like First Time I Met the Blues and stuff like that, you know. So that would be the introduction to the festival, and then there'd be all the other artists who are going to be on it, and it was I don't know why, but I was drawn to the acoustic players. The first one I saw at that festival was J.B. Lenoir, who was just mesmerising, absolutely mesmerising. Very high voice, wonderful guitar style, and great songs. Quite a lot of social comment in his songs, as I found out. I mean, I didn't really know at that time, but yeah, he was great. Big Mama Thornton was on that bill. Now, Big Mama Thornton in later life suffered with cancer and became a pale shadow. She ended up quite a small woman, but she was big. You know, she really was Big Mama Thornton. She was scary. I mean, for those of you that don't know, I mean, Big Mama Thornton did the original version of Hound Dog that Elvis Presley covered.
Can I interrupt here?
Yeah.
The man that wrote that, Arthur Big Boy Crudup, played at the original Henry's.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Did he write Hound Dog?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. That's all right now, Mama.
Yeah. That's all right, Mama, and My Baby Left Me was another of his. Yeah.
Just a bit of a link.
Right. There we go. Yeah. Big boy crew. Right.
Can I interrupt you for first?
Yes, of course.
Your parents, living as they did in the very posh part of Halesowen, Hayley Green.
Hayley Green, yes.
What did they think about you and your musical tastes?
They had no concept of what I was into. I mean, my mum kind of liked music, but she was very keen on Victor Sylvester. So ballroom dancing and dance band.
So did they disown you at an early age? Were you thrown onto the streets?
When I first started I got a guitar when I was 13 and started messing around with that, and then I got a harmonica when I was 15, and I mean, I didn't see another harmonica player for 3, apart from at the festivals, but I didn't actually see another harmonica player until I was 18. I didn't, they just weren't, so everything I learned, I picked up from records, and actually I will show you, I brought a couple of things along with me, but I'll do that in a second. But going back to what your question, I mean, when I was trying to sort of learn how to play as best as I could, I mean, really the only comment I got was, why are you trying to sing in an American accent? What are you trying to do? So from the age of probably when I got my guitar from about 13 through till about 17, which was when I first ever performed in a club, I spent every evening in my bedroom just listening to blues, listening to Bob Dylan, listening to folk music, Lead Belly. I used to get my records. If I wasn't buying them, I'd get them from Halesowen Library. They had a record section there, and there was some stuff there, and you could order stuff as well, and they got books as well. I remember having and really reading through Alan Lomax's books, Paul Oliver. I just completely immersed myself in it. But as I said, it was the folk side of things, the folk blues side of things that I was particularly interested in. I found through Blues Unlimited magazine, I found out about this book, which I brought along. This dates back to 1965. It's the first edition, Blues Harp by Tony Littleson Glover. I didn't realise until later, actually, Tony Littleson Glover was a white guy who lived around Greenwich Village, was a contemporary of Bob Dylan's, who played with a guy called Spider John Kerner.
Good player. He also played Henry's.
Right.
Spider John.
But because with names like that, I thought they were black, but I didn't, so I didn't figure it out. But the book made no sense to me. It goes into things that I didn't understand it. But the pictures, that picture there of Sonny Boy Williamson doing King Biscuit Time, that's what sold me. Those pictures like that, and so I love this book. Their picture at the end of the book to show how contemporary and hip they were and up to date is Millie Small playing the harmonica, My Boy Lollipop. So that was like a treasured possession, and then one or two albums, and I bought two landmark albums for me. They're in picture frames now, but I will show them to you if I can get them out of here. This first one that Sonny Boy Williamson did at the time of the blues festivals in Denmark on the Delmark label. I think he probably recorded that. This is that one. Story. this is great because the guitarist is Matt Murphy, the drummer is Billy Stepney, bass I can't remember. I'd have to look up, but it's pretty much acoustic blues. It's Matt. Okay, Matt Murphy is an electric guitarist and he's playing electric guitar, but it's just so laid back and gentle. And there are some solo Sonny Boy Williamson tracks on here, and I just devoured this album. Until I could approximate to something like that sound.
I'll just make a small point. I'm sure you all know this. I'll say it unnecessarily, but Matt Murphy, later on Nat Guitar Murphy, was a guitar player in the Blues Brothers film.
Yes, yes.
He's in the Blues Brothers band.
Yeah.
He's the guy with Aretha Franklin who ran the Nat's Chicken Shack, where this white guy, John Belushi, went in, quoting Eddie Taylor, who you were talking about earlier on, and he said, "Give me 2 chickens." And she said, "Do you want thighs or breasts?" He said, "I want 2 chickens."
Right, getting back to the success. The other album I absolutely devoured was this one, Sonny Terry, Harmonica Blues, on the Topic label, and this is just Sonny Terry. No Brownie McGee. It's just all solo harmonica, and that's really what sort of just fired up my imagination. So I became a sort of, I started performing in folk clubs.
As a solo harmonica singer?
No, I was playing as I said, I got a guitar when I was 13. So when I first started playing, I was playing guitar. I got heavily into Lightning Hopkins, and in some ways that might have held me back because virtually everything Lightning Hopkins ever did, he did in E. And so I learned to play in E, and I didn't do much else than play in E. So it was that, but of course I did like Bob Dylan. I liked all that early stuff, and I liked that very first album he did when he did things like House of the Rising Sun and stuff like that. I did like all that. And so I learnt those songs as well. And so when I first started playing, I would do some blues. I had my harmonica on a sling, so I'd play guitar, play harmonica that way. I'd do maybe a solo harmonica number, then I'd maybe do a guitar thing and sing the Bob Dylan song or something like that, and do the Bob Dylan harmonica thing.
At what age did you start doing that?
That was 17. The first time I ever played, that was 17. At the Lock at Wolverley. That was the first time I ever played the folk club at the Lock at Wolverley. And then on a Monday night in the Black Horse, which is just by where the Sandvik factory is, just going down to Manor Way, there were 3 guys, Dave Cartwright, Bill Caddick and Mike Billington, who used to go there on a Monday night and just get their guitars out and just sit in the bar and play. And that was where I first met another harmonica player, which was Mike Billington. He was much better than me at that time, and he showed me some stuff. And then they started a folk club at the Royal Oak at Quinton, and I used to go there every week, take my guitar, try to do, they'd do 1 or 2 floor spots, and then they'd have a guest, and then the following week they'd have a singles night, and I went there every week playing, and that's where I met some of the people who later became Ricky Cool and the Icebergs through that folk club.
Was that your first band, the Icebergs?
No. The first band, Mick Howson, who was the guitarist in Ricky Cool and the Icebergs, he had a little trio that used to do the Royal Oak. There was him, Alec Angel, who became the bass player in the Icebergs, and a singer, female singer, Monica. So it was Mick, Alec and Monica. And Mick, we became friends, and he asked me if I would maybe come down and sing with a bit of a band he was putting together. He was at the College of Food and Domestic Art, as it was back then. And I went down there, and I don't know why I got into the band. I don't know, but I wasn't, you know, that good a singer really. But anyway, I guess it was because I was the only singer, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it was a band called Brickhouse Brick. That was the band's name. Brickhouse Brick, and that would be about 1970. And then after that, we had a band called Bash Street, and Bash Street did play Henry's Blues House.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Which I guess probably would have been about 72, something like that. Maybe. 71.
That was a later version. I closed it down from my point of view in 1971.
Oh, right, well, yeah.
And then Tony Iommi and the guy I worked for called Norman Hood, they picked up when I left off and they decided to call it Eneris without the H.
Oh, right.
It didn't do too well.
Well, I think it had the H when we played it.
Good.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
It's important of the H.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As all good drug addicts will tell you.
Yeah, so that was it pretty much, really. Yeah.
So, the first band that you actually deliberately formed, was that the Icebergs?
Yes. Yes.
I remember Texas Turkeys.
That was later. That was in the 1970s. Sorry, in the 1980s.
What came in between?
The Rialtos followed the Icebergs. And it was the Rialtos that formed the nucleus of the Honey Drippers with Robert Plant.
That must have been very interesting times.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was very good.
I don't know how to say this. What position was Robert Plant in when you recruited him for the Honey Drippers?
When I recruited him. Yeah, I don't think it was quite like that, Jim. Right, okay, so what had happened, of course, was John Bonham had died, and Robert was in a bit of a, you know, sort of at a loose end. He you know, didn't know what he was going to do, and I think it was Armut Ertegun. So this is the story Robert told anyway, that Armut Ertegun had said to him, well, you need to go back to your roots and just, you know, get yourself settled back into your roots, and then pick up the pieces from there and move on from there. And so that's what Robert did, and he was looking for a band that could do some blues with him, rhythm and blues. Now, in Ricky Cool and the Rialtos, one of the guitarists we had was Andy Sylvester, who was one of the original members of Chicken Shack when Christine Perfect was in the band, and had then gone on to join Savoy Brown. He'd moved to America, but he came back to this country, and I was living in Kidderminster at the time, and Andy lived in Blakedown, just outside Kidderminster, and we got to know each other. Andy came into the Rialtos. He wasn't the first guitarist in the Rialtos, but he came into the Rialtos, and of course Andy knew Robert very well. And I doubt very much whether Andy would have suggested that Robert came down and saw us or anything like that, because Andy was not that sort of guy. But Robert came down and saw the Rialtos, and then said, you know, do you want to team up with me, and you know, we can do some gigs, and that was it. So that was the formation of the Honey Drippers.
Great.
Yeah.
So, was that sort of between the Zeppelin things, or was Zeppelin folded by then?
Oh, Zeppelin was finished. Yeah, good. John Bonham had died.
Did they finish when Bonham died?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says something about Bonham, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And of course, Robert and John Bonham were really close friends, because, you know, they'd been together in the Band of Joy and
Way of Life.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, Robert was devastated. So
he still is, apparently.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yes, that's what, you know. So that's why, you know, Armut Ertegun suggested that maybe, you know, you get away from what you've been doing,
yeah,
and just get back to your roots.
There was someone like Ertegun on your side. Come in.
I'm sure.
We'll behave ourselves, I promise. Armut Ertegun was one of the co-founders of Atlantic Records.
Yes.
Of course. So, did you have any contact with him? Because that was a pretty important record label.
No, unfortunately, no. when Robert actually did make an album with the Honey Drippers, but he actually did that in America because he had Jeff Beck involved, and the Honey Drippers with us had kind of finished by then. Yeah, because it was a couple of years after that Andy and I then formed the Big Town Playboys. Yeah.
The Big Town Playboys were a really important name in British rock and roll, rhythm and blues, weren't they?
Well, as it turned out, I mean, yes, because we were doing a lot of West Coast rhythm and blues, that sort of swing style rhythm and blues, and there was probably only us, maybe. Well, I was going to say the other bands I was aware of at the time in London, because we were playing a lot in London then, were the Chevalier Brothers, but they were more out and out swing.
Yeah.
And another band called Rent Party.
Yeah, I remember them. Good band.
Who were a little bit more rhythm and bluesy, but they were quite sort of swingy as well. But there was no one quite like us, because we would do Chicago stuff as well, because I play the harmonica as well as because I was playing the saxophone by then as well.
So how did the saxophone creep into your life?
That came in during the time of the Ricky Cool and the Icebergs.
Right.
Just because of the material we're doing, we had a saxophone player, but it felt like it would be great to have twin saxophones on a lot of the stuff we were doing.
Yeah.
So then, yeah.
So you went out and bought a saxophone and learned to play it?
I did. I did grades. I went through the whole business and ended up spending a year at Birmingham Conservatoire playing the saxophone.
Wow, that's impressive, isn't it, for a rock and roller?
Yeah.
So let's go back to your harmonica.
Yeah.
Today, who is your most enduring hero?
Sonny Boy Williamson.
The second.
Yes. Yeah. This one. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He's kind of. Yeah. He's my mate. He's my main man, really.
Did you encounter him when he lived in Birmingham? Sorry, did you encounter him when you lived in Birmingham?
No, I never saw Sonny Boy Williamson, unfortunately, because I think the blues festivals he did were probably maybe 63 or something like that.
Yeah, but
I think he did two, didn't he?
Yes, he did, but he also used Spencer Davis Group as his English backing group.
Yeah.
And after a while, he gave up living in London and came to live in Birmingham, so he'd be close to Spencer.
Right. Oh, right. I didn't know that.
And he was I wouldn't say familiar, but he was seen around the clubs.
Yeah.
Nobody spent much time with him. Most of them pleasant of men.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, you've reminded me of a story, because a friend of mine who I got to know later, you might know him. His name's David Yates. Rowdy Yates.
Good writer.
Yeah.
Really good writer.
Yeah. He ran a record shop in Stourbridge called The Groove.
Yes.
That's how I got to know him.
He was involved with Chicken Shack, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. But he told me a lovely story about Howlin' Wolf and the blues festivals, because I don't know how he was attached to them, but Howlin' Wolf asked him to get a shirt for him. He needed a shirt, so Rowdy trolls off to the shops in Birmingham. Could he find one that had got a collar big enough for Howlin' Wolf? He couldn't get one that got a big enough collar so that Howlin' Wolf could wear a tie. They could only get one that. Yeah. Another little story, just as an aside, for Andy Sylvester, because when Andy Sylvester was in Chicken Shack recorded on Blue Horizon Records, the same as Fleetwood Mac, and Blue Horizon was Mike and Richard Verne, that was their label, and they also did some recording with Freddie King, and Andy got to know Freddie King quite well, Texas guitarist, big guy, and Andy offered to give Freddie a lift to a gig, and I told you this story only recently, and Freddie said, "Oh right, okay, yeah, sure, Andy, you know." And so Andy turned up to where Freddie King was staying in a Austin 1100. and Freddie King couldn't get in it. He was physically too big to get in the car, so they had to make alternative arrangements. True story, yeah.
Can I interject here with something sort of related to that? When we started recording outside of Birmingham, people who make records are very suspicious about which studios they're going to go to. They don't trust any studios till you've been there. Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to go in and find who else had worked there. So I was talking to Richard Vernon, who ran Jimmy Norton. And I said, can I come down one weekend and just sit at the back and listen to some recording? He said, sure. So I went down one weekend and sat at the back, and who was recording? Freddie King. Mm-hmm. So, no question. And I stayed with Jimmy Norton for about 22, 23 years. Recording them.
Yeah.
Best studio I've ever worked in.
Yeah, we recorded there with Ricky Cool and the Icebergs. Yeah.
Who was your engineer? Barry Hammond?
I've no idea. I just remember us going there for a weekend and recording, and nothing ever coming from it.
No. I'm sure I'm not the only person in the room to have noticed that apart from these wonderful album sleeves and my quickly depleting bottle of wine, there is a little case. I wonder what's in it. Enlighten us.
Okay, I bought some harmonicas down.
Oh.
What
a surprise.
What a surprise. How amazing is that? So I thought, because it's so portable and whatever, the least I could do is maybe play a tune or a song.
We demand it, don't we?
Right,
yes.
Okay, well I will. Right, so I'll just tell you a little bit something about harmonica, for those of you who might not know. So these harmonicas are called diatonic harmonicas. They have a range of 20 notes. Each hole plays a different note, a different letter name, and so there are certain notes missing. Certain, if you imagine a piano keyboard and you've got the white notes and the black notes, well, on here you've got a mixture of both, but you just haven't got them all. Okay, so you've got some notes missing, so harmonica players who play these will have a whole set of them in different keys, so that you can play, in whatever key the band or the guitarist or the piano player is playing in. So this is a harmonica in A. When you're playing blues, the most common way to play it is, instead of blowing the harmonica, and doing that, is rather than blowing, you suck. Now, when you suck at the bottom end of the harmonica, on an A harmonica, I get an E chord. And so if my guitarist is playing in E, then immediately you've got a kind of a bluesier thing going on.
I feel better already.
Yeah. So that's the most common way of playing the harmonica, and we call it second position. Okay. So if I'm playing in second position, so so you and the other thing that you can do with the harmonica is you can bend the notes. And some of the notes will bend more, some of them won't bend quite so much. So that enables you to get some of these missing notes that aren't actually part of the instrument itself. So that's second position, playing in the key of E on an A harmonica, and that's the most common one for playing blues. However, you can also play in first position, which means I play in the key of the harmonica, okay, or another one which is called third position. So on an A harmonica, my blow note is A, that sub note is B. Now if I play in B, then you kind of got that sort of a minorish sort of blues feel. So there's third position as well. So I just thought what I would do to round this off is play a number if there's time to do that.
There's always time for you.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. All right. So, just for the hell of it, really, I'm going to do something in first position. So I'm actually going to play in the key of the harmonica. And the song I'm going to play you is one that was written by a harmonica player by the name of Annie Raines. Annie Raines, about the same age as me, and performs a lot and is a great harmonica player. And so she wrote this song, which is called Little Dog, and I've just had to change the words a little bit because it's actually written for a woman, but I've changed it a little bit so it suits me. Anyway, it's Let Me Be Your Little Dog, okay? Now come here, pretty baby, run your fingers through my hair. Treat me kind and gentle, and I'll follow you everywhere. Let me be your little dog, baby, till your big dog comes. I will better than that big dog does. Now people say that size doesn't matter. I know that that's a lie. The smaller the present box is, the bigger the surprise. Let me be your little dog, honey, till your big dog comes. You know I could better than your big dog does. Here's the big dog. Here's a little dog. I'll stay right by your side. I'll be faithful to the end. Even though people tell me you are your own best friend. Let me be your little dog, honey, till your big dog comes. You know I can better than your big dog does.
That was absolutely stunning. A really entrancing 45 minutes or whatever we had. Really good. You're going to have to come back again, Trix.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That was great. Thank you all for coming, all being so supportive, and thanks so much to Trix. Brilliant. Really cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you.